Good afternoon. This is Chris Carlson, another installment of the COVID-19 SBA relief installment video and webinar. We're going to talk today about the PPP forgiveness calculation or forgiveness structure for the easy form. It's different from the other form. It's much better. And I am going to start walking through that aspect of it today. So they have, as you probably know, we covered it in our previous webinars, that the PPP forgiveness in the easy form is pared down from 11 pages to about 3 pages. The instruction is much easier, and the backup and the calculations we have to do are much less. They're not little, much less. Much better way of doing it. There are a couple of things that if you take away nothing else, this is what you should remember from this. There is a covered period that is the basis for everything. That is between 8 and 24 weeks following funding. And that is the basis for everything that we're looking at. So how much payroll did you have that can be forgiven? It's determined by the covered period. Now, for this covered period and other periods, you have to have backup of payroll records. And for covered period, have backup of other expenses. You need to track that, and we have a worksheet for that we are going through in another webinar. And also, most importantly, you have to apply. The application is there, and banks don't have it yet, but you are going to have to apply to give the forgiveness. First, want to go through this quickly, because for sole proprietors, it's really easy. You can automatically use the easy form application. You click box 1, you can do it, and on the actual form that you fill out is the cash compensation to the owner for sole proprietor is the same as you got a loan for, because it's deemed to be replacement owner compensation. So that becomes the same thing over 24 weeks. It does become the same thing. So go in for everybody else who are not sole proprietors, not independent contractors. So what does PPP forgiven mean? So first, in the covered period, again, that's the 8 to 24 weeks, the forgiveness are the expenses that you use the loan for. So here are eligible payroll expenses, gross payroll, company portion of health insurance, company portion of retirement benefit. This is really good. And that has to be at least 60% of the forgiven amount. Then you have other eligible expenses, and that has to be a max 66% of eligible payroll expenses. Those are rents, business interest expenses like mortgage, business interest expenses, and utilities. Couple of other things to understand from this is that any employee is capped at $15,385 for 8 weeks, or $46,154 for 24 weeks. That is the same as $100,000 a year, or $1,923 per week if you select payroll covered period somewhere in between 8 and 24 weeks. Owner employees are capped differently. It is $15,385 for 8 weeks, or $1,923 per week, for a max of $20,833. And that goes through the 10th week. Once you do 11th, you're over the max. And for 11 to 24 weeks, it is $20,833 max, or 20.83% of the 2019 wages. And the same cap exists for any lesser than 24 weeks. Having said that, you should also know that almost impossible not to reach 100% in 24 weeks. you really only need 25% of 2019 average payroll to get there. That's how it works out, because the way the loan was structured was based on 2.5 months of average monthly payroll. That is 10 weeks. Then we are allowed to do 40% of the total forgiveness, or 66% of the payroll, as non-payroll. And when you make that math over 24 weeks, it's 25% of average payroll from 2019. I think that is a pretty good deal. Covered period, that is any time between 18 and 24 weeks. And if you use anything but 24 weeks, or if you were before 6.5, you could use 8 weeks without having to do this. But otherwise, all the dollars from the loan must be spent before you can apply, unless you go the full distance of either 8 to 24 weeks. As of 7.3, also know that lenders are not ready yet. As of today, I don't know any lender who has actually done the IT to be able to do the forgiveness application. And as it has changed now, I'm sure that they're scrambling desperately to get that set up. And also slow down a little bit. Don't get too hasty, because look out, make sure that the numbers work before you apply. So the two different things, apply and the backup. At the same time, don't hurry. Also, don't wait. If you know, you see through your calculations that you have spent all your money, you're getting 100% forgiveness, do your application when the bank is ready, because there is going to be an incredible crunch. There are over 4 million small businesses who are going to do this sometime between October and January. Now, there might be a general less than $150,000 forgiveness on some kind of an application. We don't know yet, and this doesn't cover that. So backup. To do the application, we need backup. We need reports. First, payroll reports. The covered period, 8 to 24 weeks, your pick. You need payroll reports for that period of time that you are selecting. They need payroll reports for 1/1/20 to 3/31/20. You need a first quarter. You need a week of 1/1/20, the week of 2/15/20, last week of the covered period, and the last week of covered period, or any week till week of 12/31/20, because that is the law saying that you have up until 12/31/20 to reset and catch up for safe harbors for number of employees and hours worked in a week. And all through this, when I say week off, that means payroll period. If you are doing a 2-week period, then it's the 2-week off. If you're going to do box 3 in the application, then you have to have the revenue reporting, because that says that you are saying, certifying, and backing up that because of the coronavirus and the restrictions put in place, that you could not do business to the same level. Hence, that's the revenues. You have to show that your revenues are not what they were in the same period last year. And for that, you have to look at the months that fit within your covered period and then compare to the same time last year. That's how we are doing it in our operations. Other eligible expenses, the week of 2/15/20 and the covered period. And the week of 2/15/20 is because all the eligible expenses would have to be committed to existing prior to 2/15/20 to qualify. So if you decided that you got a new warehouse in March 15 and you got utility expenses hooked up to that warehouse, that doesn't count. They would have to have been hooked up prior to 215 or at 215. And of course, the eligible expenses for the covered period. Payroll, what we need there are the actual payroll reports from most people have third party, and I would recommend that you do, actual payroll reports. Then you need a bank statement to reconcile against that, or the cancel checks. You have to show that, yes, this is my payroll report. I actually paid that. So if my payroll report was $8,000 in a week, then I have to show that that money actually went out. Payroll tax filing forms, the Form 940, that you get that from the payroll company. Other expenses, you need a bank statements or canceled checks and the invoices. So you need to be able to show that I have invoices for this, that this is what it's for, and this check was written or the ACH or direct withdrawal here took place. A couple of aspects here of this that we should learn together what they are. As we said, a covered period is 8 to 24 weeks following funding. That's basis for everything. That is what determines if we get to amount that we can say should be forgiven. Alternate covered period, that's the same as covered period, except it starts on the day the next payroll period starts after you get funding. So if you get funded on Tuesday afternoon, but your payroll period starts next Monday, you could say that my covered period starts that next Monday. Reference period, that is for the easy form, that is the comparing period, which is 1/1/20 to 3/31/20 for wage reductions. Wage reductions, that is the reduction of pay rate of any person in the covered period compared to the first quarter of 20. And if we have any person that we decreased by more than 25% from the first quarter to the covered period, we are disqualified from doing the easy form. Reduction of hours, same thing. Did we reduce the paid hours per week in the last week of the covered period to the week of 120? Same thing there. If we did that, we get disqualified in this box. We still have the chance on the other box. Because there are 3 boxes in this. Box 1, if we are a sole proprietor, box 2, or box 3. And we're going to show you what those boxes are. There is going to be an employee table. Table 1 is for people making $100,000 or less. Table 2 are for people who are making over $100,000. And then we have a special place for owner employees. Safe harbor is the last week of the covered period. It's a week or a pay period of the last of the covered period, or up till the last, or the pay period is straggling 12/31/20. There is a concept, restore, rehire reference period. And that is people who were not employed or underemployed in the covered period that existed on the payroll of 2/15/20. So if we can take the people who disappeared from the payroll, that we could not replace or rehire, and we could not replace the hours, and then we can add that in to or subtract from the comparable period for the reference period to make that less, so it's easier for the covered period to be higher. Before we go there, I was talking about the boxes, so maybe I want to go there. So here, in the actual application for easy form, PPP forgiveness, there are 3 boxes. If we can check any one of these boxes, we qualify for easy. This is what it looks like there. And we're going to put it into a more practical format here. If I can find it again. Here. So we have constructed an automatic worksheet to make these calculations. And here you see the 3 boxes in this easy form PPP forgiveness calculation. Box 1, am I sole proprietor? Yes, then I click that and I qualify. Box number 2, did we reduce the wages by more than 25% for anybody between the covered period and the first quarter? That's no, good. Then plus, we also have to look at, did we reduce the number of employees between the last week of the covered period and the week of 1/1/20? Did we reduce the average paid hours per week between the last week of the covered period and 1/1/20? If that is no, we did not do that, then we qualify for box number 2. We also have an out, and that is that no later than 12/31/2020 can we get back to 1/1/20 levels. Box number 3 is the same thing, except instead of B1 and B2 here, we're now saying that if we don't have a reduction of anybody by more than 25%, plus we have a reduction of revenues because we had a impact of COVID regulations and guidances from different entities, then if we have that, we can show that our revenues went down and we can show that that was dependent on the guidances, then we qualify for box number 3. This is what the application page looks like when we do the calculation in our worksheet. So this calculates that our payroll cost for the period, the business interest payments, the business rental lease payments, the business utility payments, add that up to a number. Then we have the PPP loan amount, and then we have payroll cost with a 60% requirement, which means that we take the payroll cost we spoke about, divide by 0.6, and that becomes a number. So the least of those 3 is what the forgivable amount is. And this is what the actual form, the instruction form looks like. And it goes, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 pages, I believe there are there. And then the actual form is 3 pages. And this is where you fill everything out. Here you have your business information, the PPP loan number, the lender PPP number, the PPP loan amount, and the date that you got the money. And then they also want to know how many employees did you have at the time of loan application and the time of the forgiveness application. Then they also do want to know the EIDL advance amount, that's the grant part, and that number. And that's because NBA, the SBA on their side is going to take your number that you calculate and then deduct that grant amount from that. Don't do it yourself, because then you'll end up double dipping. They will do it, you don't touch it. Then it's the same thing that we said here. And then we have all the certifications that you have to do here that has to do with what we said in the boxes. And you sign it. That's what the application looks like. And then it's the last thing with demographics. Then again, PPP forgiveness, it's for the easy form. Remember to apply. You have up to 10 months after the cover period ends. If you blow that, you blow it. Unless, of course, they put in the $150,000 automatic, although it's still anticipate that's going to be a application from that. So then after you apply for forgiveness with the lender, then they have 60 days to approve that internally, hand it over to the SBA, who then has 30 days to decide if they are right or wrong, or if they want to do something else. If they're right, then money goes back to the bank, the guarantee ends, and their obligation ends, and you are forgiven. And so you got to apply, get the payroll back up now, get that started so you don't start to try to do this when there is a huge crunch on all resources. Okay, hope to see you next time. Have a good time. Thank you.